Perfect coffee at 3:15 a.m. shouldn't determine whether you live or die. But here I was, watching Takeshi Ozu's face as he took the first sip of the espresso I'd just made, knowing that almost perfect wasn't good enough. Not for him. Not ever. 3 weeks ago, I was a literature student worried about my thesis defense. Now I was worried about surviving until morning. His eyes closed. 3 seconds of silence. My heart stopped. Temperature, he said, voice flat. 0.6 degrees low. I was in serious trouble. 3 weeks earlier, I woke up to a note on my father's pillow. Not dear Alice. Not I'm sorry. Just 8 words in his cramped handwriting. Can't stay. Debt too big. Took Emma, my little sister, gone. With him. I read it 3 times, waiting for the words to make sense. They didn't. Of course he left. Why did I expect anything different? Mom died and took all the stability with her. Emma stopped talking to me when she hit 16, and now Dad just decided I wasn't worth the trouble of staying. The phone rang. Unknown number. I should have let it go to voicemail. Alice Stone? Male voice. Professional. Cold as surgical steel. Depends who's asking. Someone your father owes $300,000. Loan's been overdue for 3 months. Interest accumulating daily. The air disappeared from the room. I don't know where my father is, but we know where you are. Not a threat, a statement of fact. You have 48 hours to present yourself at the address I'm sending, or we start collecting in other ways. The text came through before I could respond. Take Shiosu. Import-Export Limited. Downtown Financial District. I spent the next 2 days trying solutions. Called Emma. Voicemail. Again and again. Applied for additional student loans. Denied. Too much existing debt. Considered running. With what money? To where? 48 hours later, I stood in front of a building that shouldn't exist in my reality. The building was 12 stories of black glass and controlled intimidation. Japanese garden out front, pruned with millimeter precision. 6 security guards in the lobby, all in identical dark suits, all with earpieces, none smiling, none blinking too much either. A man in a charcoal suit approached. 40s, scar through his left eyebrow, face that had forgotten how to show warmth. Miss Stone, Takeshi-san is expecting you. Not Mr. Ozu, just Takeshi-san. With reverence. I followed him through 3 security checkpoints, metal detector, retinal scan, full body scanner that probably saw my soul and found it wanting. The elevator had mirrors so clean, I could see my own anxiety reflected in 4K. No fingerprints, no smudges, like nobody had ever actually touched anything in this building. Floor 12. The doors opened to silence, so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Everything was angles. Perfect, 90 degrees. The hallway stretched ahead, dark wood doors on either side, all closed. Japanese art on the walls, spaced exactly 3 meters apart. I counted. The carpet absorbed sound like it was hungry for it. This way, the man, Naoki, I'd learn later, said. We walked past offices where I could feel people working behind closed doors, but no sound escaped. The air smelled controlled, like someone had decided the exact ratio of oxygen to allow. The plants were trimmed with surgical precision. Not a leaf out of place. At the end of the hallway, double doors. Dark wood. No nameplate. Naoki knocked. 3 times. Measured. Identical in volume. Waited exactly 3 seconds. Enter, came a voice from inside. My stomach dropped. The office was less a workspace and more a statement. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city I could never afford. A desk of dark Japanese wood, empty except for a laptop, tablet, and 3 pens aligned like soldiers. An Italian espresso machine in the corner that probably cost more than my entire education. La Marzocco. $15,000 of caffeine precision. Bookshelves, organized by height and color. Not a spine out of place. No photographs. No personal items. Nothing human. And behind the desk, Takeshi Ozu. The Google searches I'd done in desperate midnight hours hadn't prepared me for the reality. 30 years old. 6'1". Athletic but elegant, like a blade disguised as a sculpture. Angular face, sharp cheekbones, defined jaw, hair black and perfectly styled back. eyes so dark they were almost black, and intense enough to dissect you in 3 seconds. Armani suit, gray, white shirt, without a single wrinkle, silver cufflinks. He looked up from his tablet. Those eyes landed on me. I forced myself not to step back. Sit, he said. Not a request, a command. I obeyed. Hated that I obeyed. Coffee, he asked. No, thank you. One eyebrow raised. That wasn't a social offer. I want to see if you know how to make it. He gestured toward the espresso machine. Double shot. Temperature, 93 degrees Celsius. Extraction, 25 seconds. Crema, 2 millimeters. I stood. Specific. Always. I walked to the machine, feeling his eyes on every movement. My hands knew what to do. 3 years of working at an upscale coffee shop had trained them well, but my brain was screaming that this wasn't about coffee. Nothing here was really about coffee. I measured the grounds, tamped them, locked the portafilter, started the extraction. Interesting outfit for a job interview, Takeshi said behind me. I glanced down. Jeans, sweater, sneakers. Didn't know it was an interview. Everything is an interview, Miss Stone. Every decision you make tells me who you are. My hands trembled slightly as I positioned the cup. Nervous, he observed. Cautious. There's a difference. He's evaluating everything. How I hold the portafilter, how I measure, how I breathe. I need to be perfect. No. I need to be good enough to survive. 25 seconds. I cut the extraction, served the espresso in a white cup I'd warmed beforehand. Takeshi took it, raised it, inhaled. 3 seconds of silence. That lasted 3 years. First sip. Acceptable. Just acceptable. Temperature was 0.8 degrees high. Extraction. 2 seconds long. I blinked. That's impossible to notice. For you, pause. Your father also thought details didn't matter. That's why he's where he is. The words hit like a slap. Abandonment plus judgment. My favorite combination. Takeshi stood. Walked toward me. Slowly. Each step deliberate. I backed up until the desk stopped me. He stopped inches away. Too close. He smelled like cedar and something darker. Danger. Maybe. Do you know who I really am? He asked, voice low. A lender with an expensive office. Lender? A laugh without humor. Interesting way to put it. He reached past me, adjusted 3 objects on the desk behind me. 1, 2, 3. Perfect right angles. I'm the man your father tried to cheat. I'm the man who could erase your life with 1 phone call. And now, he paused. I'm your only option. Something snapped in me. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the literary irony of standing in a villain's office like some gothic heroine who'd wandered into the wrong genre. My only option? Or your only way to feel like you control something? Silence. I saw how you adjusted those pens. 3 times. I saw how you checked that the coffee was exact. I'm not the only one here with problems. Takeshi froze. Something crossed his face. Anger. Then, respect. Careful, Miss Stone. Honesty can be as dangerous as lies. He returned to his desk. Adjusted his tablet. 3 degrees clockwise. $370,000. That's your debt. A barista's salary won't cover it in your lifetime. I know, but I need an assistant. Someone who understands the importance of precision. Assistant. Available 24 hours. Perfect coffee when I request it. And he looked at me directly. Absolute discretion about what you see here. And if I say no, he smiled. It wasn't kind. You won't say no. He was right. And that's what terrified me most. What exactly is your business, Mr. Ozu? I asked, though I suspected I didn't want the answer. Import and export, as the name suggests. Of what? Various goods. He tapped his tablet. Some more legal than others. My stomach tightened. You're asking me to work for a criminal. I'm offering you a way to clear your father's debt in 3 years instead of never. The morality of it is yours to wrestle with. Perfect coffee at 3:15 a.m. shouldn't determine whether you live or die. But here I was, watching Takeshi Ozu's face as he took the first sip of the espresso I'd just made, knowing that almost perfect wasn't good enough. Not for him. Not ever. 3 weeks ago, I was a literature student worried about my thesis defense. Now I was worried about surviving until morning. His eyes closed. 3 seconds of silence. My heart stopped. Temperature, he said, voice flat. 0.6 degrees low. I was in serious trouble. 3 weeks earlier, I woke up to a note on my father's pillow. Not dear Alice. Not I'm sorry. Just 8 words in his cramped handwriting. Can't stay. Debt too big. Took Emma. My little sister. Gone. With him. I read it 3 times, waiting for the words to make sense. They didn't. Of course he left. Why did I expect anything different? Mom died and took all the stability with her. Emma stopped talking to me when she hit 16. And now Dad just decided I wasn't worth the trouble of staying. The phone rang. Unknown number. I should have let it go to voicemail. Alice Stone. Male voice. Professional. Cold as surgical steel. Depends who's asking. Someone your father owes $300,000. Loan's been overdue for 3 months. Interest accumulating daily. The air disappeared from the room. I don't know where my father is, but we know where you are. Not a threat. A statement of fact. You have 48 hours to present yourself at the address I'm sending, or we start collecting in other ways. The text came through before I could respond. Tekshi Ozu. Import-Export Limited. Financial District. San Francisco. I spent the next 2 days trying solutions. Called Emma. Voicemail. Again and again. Applied for additional student loans. Denied. Too much existing debt. Considered running. With what money? To where? 48 hours later, I took Bart into the city and stood in front of a building that shouldn't exist in my reality. The building was 12 stories of black glass rising from the financial district, like a monolith. Fog clung to its upper floors. A Japanese garden occupied the entrance courtyard, bonsai trees pruned with millimeter precision, gravel raked in perfect concentric circles. 6 security guards in the lobby, all in identical dark suits. All with earpieces, none smiling, none blinking too much either. A man in a charcoal suit approached. 40s, scar through his left eyebrow, face that had forgotten how to show warmth. Miss Stone, Takeshi-san is expecting you. Not, Mr. Ozu, just Takeshi-san. With reverence, I followed him through 3 security checkpoints. Metal detector, retinal scan, full body scanner that probably saw my soul and found it wanting. The elevator had mirrors, so clean I could see my own anxiety reflected in HD. No fingerprints, no smudges, like nobody had ever actually touched anything in this building. Floor 12. The doors opened to silence so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Everything was angles. Perfect 90 degrees. The hallway stretched ahead. Dark wood doors on either side. All closed. Japanese art on the walls. Hokusai prints. I recognized them from my art history elective. Spaced exactly 3 meters apart. I counted. The carpet absorbed sound like it was hungry for it. This way. The man. Naoki. I'd learn later. Said. We walked past offices where I could feel people working behind closed doors. But no sound escaped. The air smelled controlled. Sandalwood and something sharper. Like someone had decided the exact ratio of oxygen to allow. The plants, I noticed them in alcoves, were trimmed with surgical precision. Not a leaf out of place. Even the air felt arranged. Through the windows, I caught glimpses of San Francisco spread below. Transamerica Pyramid. Bay Bridge disappearing into fog. Coit Tower in the distance. A view that reminded me exactly how far above my reality this place existed. At the end of the hallway. Double doors. Dark wood. No nameplate. Naoki knocked. 3 times. Measured. Identical in volume. Waited exactly 3 seconds. Enter, came a voice from inside. My stomach dropped. The office was less a workspace and more a statement of control. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I could never afford. The fog pressed against the glass like it wanted in, but wasn't allowed. A desk of dark Japanese wood dominated the center, empty except for a laptop, tablet, and 3 pens aligned like soldiers at attention. An Italian espresso machine in the corner that probably cost more than my entire education. La Marzocco. $15,000 of caffeine precision. Bookshelves along one wall. Organized by height and color. not a spine out of place. I caught titles: Mishima, Murakami, but also Hemingway, Fitzgerald, first editions. If I wasn't mistaken. No photographs, no personal items, nothing human. And behind the desk, Takeshi Osu. The Google searches I'd done in desperate midnight hours hadn't prepared me for the reality. 30 years old, 6'1", athletic, but elegant, like a blade disguised as sculpture. Angular face, sharp cheekbones, fine jaw that could cut glass, hair black and perfectly styled back, not a strand out of place, eyes so dark they were almost black, and intense enough to dissect you in 3 seconds. Armani suit, gray, white shirt without a single wrinkle, silver cufflinks that caught the light when he moved. He looked up from his tablet. Those eyes landed on me. I forced myself not to step back. Tried to channel every strong female character I'd ever read: Elizabeth Bennet's wit, Jane Eyre's backbone, even Scarlett O'Hara's refusal to be intimidated. It didn't quite work. Sit, he said. Not a request, a command. I obeyed. Hated that I obeyed. He studied me for 3 seconds. I counted, then returned his attention to his tablet, adjusting at 3 degrees, a precise movement. Coffee? He asked, not looking up. No, thank you. One eyebrow raised. Those eyes returned to me. That wasn't a social offer. I want to see if you know how to make it. He gestured toward the espresso machine. Double shot. Temperature: 93 degrees Celsius. Extraction: 25 seconds. Crema: 2 millimeters. I stood. My legs felt steadier than my pulse. Specific, always. I walked to the machine, feeling his eyes on every movement. My hands knew what to do. 3 years of working at Blue Bottle in Berkeley had trained them well, but my brain was screaming that this wasn't about coffee. Nothing here was really about coffee. I measured the grounds, 22 grams. Tamped them with 30 pounds of pressure. Locked the portafilter into place. Started the extraction. The machine hummed to life. Interesting outfit for a job interview, Takeshi said behind me. I glanced down. Jeans. Berkeley sweatshirt. Sneakers. Didn't know it was an interview. Everything is an interview, Miss Stone. Every decision you make tells me who you are. My hands trembled slightly as I positioned the cup. I'd warmed it beforehand, basic technique, but it mattered. Nervous, he observed. Cautious. There's a difference. He's evaluating everything: how I hold the portafilter, how I measure, how I breathe, like I'm a text. He's close reading for subtext. I need to be perfect. No, I need to be good enough to survive. 25 seconds. I cut the extraction. The espresso flowed dark and rich, crema forming on top. 2 millimeters, exactly. I served it in the white cup, placed it on his desk with the handle facing him at precisely 45 degrees. Another detail from my coffee shop training that suddenly felt like a test I hadn't studied for. Takeshi took the cup, raised it. Inhaled first, evaluating the aroma. 3 seconds of silence that lasted 3 years. First sip, my heart forgot how to be. Acceptable. Not good. Not excellent. Acceptable. Just acceptable. Temperature was 0.8 degrees high. Extraction 2 seconds long. The grind could have been finer. I blinked. That's impossible to notice. For you. A pause that felt like punctuation. Your father also thought details didn't matter. That's why he's where he is now. The words hit like a physical blow. Abandonment plus judgment. My 2 favorite things. Takeshi stood. The movement was fluid, controlled. He walked toward me, slowly, each step deliberate, like a big cat that knew its prey couldn't escape. I backed up until the desk stopped me. He stopped inches away. Too close. Personal space ceased to exist. He smelled like cedar and something darker. Expensive cologne that probably had a French name I couldn't pronounce. Do you know who I really am? He asked, voice lower now. A lender with an expensive office and very specific coffee preferences. Lender? A laugh without humor. Sharp and cold. Interesting way to put it. He reached past me. I held my breath and adjusted 3 objects on the desk behind me. 1, 2, 3. Perfect right angles. The pens. He was adjusting the pens I'd disturbed when I placed the coffee. I'm the man your father tried to cheat. I'm the man who could erase your life with one phone call. And now, he paused, eyes boring into mine. I'm your only option. Something snapped in me. Maybe it was exhaustion from 2 sleepless nights. Maybe it was the literary irony of standing in what felt like a villain's lair. Bronte meets Puzo. Maybe it was just the absurdity of the entire situation. My only option? Or your only way to feel like you control something? The words were out before I could stop them. Silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. I saw how you adjusted those pens. 3 times before I even sat down. I saw how you checked that the coffee was exact to the decimal point. I'm not the only one here with problems, Mr. Ozu. Takeshi went very still. Something crossed his face. Anger, definitely, but underneath it, respect? Surprise? When he spoke, his voice was dangerously quiet. Careful, Miss Stone. Honesty can be as dangerous as lies. Perhaps more so. He returned to his desk with that same controlled grace. Sat down. Adjusted his tablet. 3 degrees clockwise. I watched him do it. $370,000, he said, as if discussing the weather. That's your debt. Your father borrowed 300,000, interest over 3 months. Brings it to 370. It increases daily. I know. The man on the phone made that clear. A barista's salary won't cover it. Not in your lifetime. He opened something on his tablet. I've reviewed your file. 24 years old. Senior at Berkeley. Comparative literature. GPA 3.7. Thesis on female agency in Victorian Gothic novels. Promising, if academically unmarketable. The fact that he knew all this should have terrified me more than it did. Maybe I was too numb, or maybe some part of me had already accepted that my privacy was another casualty of my father's decisions. You've worked at Blue Bottle Coffee for 3 years. Consistent performance reviews. No major infractions. You live alone in a studio apartment in Oakland. Rent, $1,800 monthly. Student loans, $67,000. Credit card debt, $4,000. Savings, $1,200. He recited my financial devastation like poetry. Brutal, honest poetry. So you see, Miss Stone, conventional repayment isn't feasible. Which brings us to alternative arrangements. What kind of arrangements? Takeshi leaned back in his chair. The leather creaked softly, the first uncontrolled sound I'd heard in this office. I need an assistant, someone available 24 hours, someone who understands that perfection isn't optional. Assistant for what, exactly? Various tasks. Coffee, obviously. You have potential there, despite today's mediocre performance, but also coordination, scheduling, managing certain delicate matters. The way he said delicate matters made my skin prickle. And what would this pay? Room, board, and $45,000 toward your debt annually. 3 years of service clears the entire amount, plus interest. I did the math quickly. 45,000 times 3 was only 135. Was short of 370. He saw my calculation. I'm being generous with the interest calculation. Consider it incentive for quality performance. And if my performance isn't quality, then we renegotiate terms, likely less favorably for you. I looked out the window. The fog had thickened. San Francisco disappeared into gray. What exactly is your business, Mr. Ozu? And please don't say import-export. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face, brief as lightning. I facilitate transactions. Sometimes those transactions involve goods, sometimes services, sometimes information. The specifics vary. That's intentionally vague. It's intentionally honest. The details you're asking about are earned, not given. First, you would need to prove you can be trusted. Trusted with illegal activities? Trusted with discretion. He stood again, walked to the window. My business operates in gray areas. Some of what I do violates laws I consider unjust. Some of what I do would make you uncomfortable, but I don't traffic in human lives. I don't deal in narcotics. And I don't tolerate unnecessary violence. That's a low bar for morality. He turned back to me. Perhaps, but it's my bar. And it's more than most in my position can claim. Your position being, you're familiar with the Yakuza. My stomach dropped. Japanese organized crime. A crude simplification, but accurate enough. My family has been part of that world for 4 generations. I inherited certain obligations and certain resources. This was insane. I was standing in the office of a actual gangster. Discussing employment terms like this was a normal job interview. Why me? I asked. If you need an assistant, you could hire someone experienced. Someone who wouldn't need to be blackmailed into accepting. Blackmail implies coercion, without choice. You have a choice, Miss Stone. It's simply not a comfortable one. That's semantics. It's precision. He returned to his desk. As for why you have 3 qualities I require. First, intelligence. Your academic record demonstrates analytical capability. Second, you're desperate enough to accept, but not so desperate that you'll be reckless. Third, he paused. Those dark eyes assessed me. Third, you push back. You walked into this office terrified. Don't deny it. I could see it. But you still challenged me. Twice. That suggests backbone. Weak people are liabilities in my world. Or maybe I'm just not smart enough to be properly afraid. Oh, you're afraid, but you're functioning despite it. That's courage, not stupidity. There's a difference. He picked up his coffee cup, examined it, set it down with a soft click. You have questions. Ask them. I had about 1,000. If I accept, what does 24 hours available actually mean? You would live here. This building has residential floors. You'd have your own apartment. Private. Secure. But when I need you for coffee, for errands, for any task, you come immediately, even at 3 a.m., especially at 3 a.m. My sleep schedule is irregular. I found it advantageous to work when others don't. What about my classes? I'm supposed to graduate in May. You would attend your classes, complete your degree. I'm not unreasonable, but your priorities shift. Education is secondary to your obligations here. I thought about my thesis. 6 months of research. Professor Kenji, depending on me to be her TA next semester. I need time to think about this. No. The word was flat, final. You decide now. Walk out that door, and the original terms apply. I'll pursue collection, through conventional means. Your wages garnished, your credit destroyed, legal action that follows you for decades. Or you accept my offer and clear the debt in 3 years. That's not really a choice. It's exactly a choice. An unpleasant one. But unpleasant choices are still choices, Miss Stone. The sooner you accept that, the easier your life becomes. He was right. I hated that he was right. I thought about my father, wherever he was. About Emma, probably scared and confused. About my mother, who died believing I'd finish school and build a better life. About how all of that was slipping away because of a debt I didn't create, and a choice I never got to make. If I do this, I said slowly, I need guarantees. Written, contract, specific terms. Not just your word. Takeshi smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost approachable. Almost. Naoki will prepare the contract. You'll review it with legal counsel if you wish. My counsel, but you may ask questions. Terms will be explicit. You're not the first person I've made such arrangements with. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. One more question. Ask. The coffee. Was it really 0.8 degrees off? He picked up the cup, drained the last of it. No. It was perfect. But you needed to understand the standard you're expected to meet. So you lied. I tested. There's a difference. More semantics. More precision. He set the cup down. Aligned it with the other objects on his desk. Do we have an agreement, Miss Stone? I looked at the fog pressing against the windows. At the city hidden somewhere beyond it. At the life I'd planned slowly drowning in gray. 3 years, I said, and then I'm free. Debt cleared, no further obligations. 3 years of satisfactory service, and you walk away clear. You have my word, the word of a criminal. The word of a man who understands that reputation is the only currency that truly matters. He extended his hand across the desk. Do we have an agreement? I stared at his hand. Strong fingers. Immaculate nails. A hand that probably signed both business contracts and execution orders. I thought about Dante's inscription above the gates of hell. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Then I thought about Orpheus walking into the underworld to save what he loved, even knowing he might not return. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm, controlled. Excellent, Takeshi said. Welcome to your new life, Miss Stone. Naoki will show you to your apartment. You move in tonight. Tonight? Your debt begins accumulating interest daily. Why waste time? He pressed a button on his desk. The door opened immediately. Naoki stepped in as if he'd been waiting right outside. He probably had been. Show Miss Stone to apartment 10C. Have her belongings collected from her current residence. She starts immediately. Hi. Takeshi-san. I stood on numb legs. This was happening. This was actually happening. At the door, I turned back. Mr. Ozu? Yes, that coffee. If it was actually perfect, why didn't you just say so? He looked at me over his tablet. In the gray light from the window, his expression was unreadable. Because perfection is never the goal, Miss Stone. Troll is. And now I have yours. The door closed behind me before I could respond. Naoki led me down a different hallway. No windows here, just more of that sound-absorbing carpet and art spaced at precise intervals. We took the elevator down to the 10th floor. You will have questions, Naoki said. His English was perfect, barely accented. I will answer what I can. How long have you worked for him? 12 years. And before that? Before is not relevant. He glanced at me. Advice, Miss Stone. Focus on the present. Past and future are distractions. The elevator opened onto a hallway that looked almost normal. Residential doors numbered, soft lighting, a window at the far end, showing the fog. How many people live here? I asked. 8, currently, all in Takeshi-san's employ. Various capacities. Like me? No, not like you. He stopped at door. Tensyu. Produced a keycard. Handed it to me. Your apartment. Furnished. Utilities included. You'll find essentials already provided. Your belongings from Oakland will arrive by morning. How do you even know where I live? Stupid question. Of course they knew. I opened the door. The apartment was not what I expected. Spacious. Bay window overlooking the city. Hardwood floors. Modern kitchen with, of course, an expensive espresso machine. Bedroom visible through an open door. Bathroom with actual marble. It was nicer than any place I'd ever lived. By several orders of magnitude. Takeshi-san values quality environment, Naoki said. Productivity increases with comfort. I'm not comfortable. You will be. Or you'll learn to fake it. Same outcome. I walked to the window. From here I could see the Bay Bridge, lights starting to glow as evening approached. How long had I been in that office? Time felt slippery, unreliable. The contract, I said. When can I see it? It's on the tablet. Naoki gestured to a device on the kitchen counter. Review tonight. Sign by morning. First coffee service is 3:15 a.m. tomorrow. 3:15 a.m.? That's in. I checked my phone. 6 hours. Takeshi-san is consistent about time. You'll adapt. And if I can't, Naoki's expression didn't change. Then you'll fail. And failure has consequences here. He moved to the door. Paused. One more thing, Miss Stone. You challenged Takeshi-san today. Twice. That took courage. But courage without wisdom is suicide. Choose your battles. Not every hill is worth dying on. That sounds like experience talking. It is. He touched his scarred eyebrow. Learn from my mistakes. It's cheaper. Then he was gone, door clicking shut with expensive finality. I stood in my new apartment, my very nice prison, and tried to process the last 2 hours. Failed completely. The tablet on the counter drew my attention. Might as well see what I'd agreed to. The contract was thorough, terrifyingly thorough. Between Takeshi Ozu, hereafter employer, and Alice Stone, hereafter employee. Duration, 3 years from date of execution. Compensation. Room, board, and $45,000 annually applied to outstanding debt of $370,000 upon satisfactory completion of 3-year term, remaining balance forgiven. Duties. Employee shall serve as personal assistant to employer, including but not limited to beverage preparation, correspondence management, errand execution, event coordination, and any other tasks as assigned. Availability. Employee shall be available 24 hours daily. Response time to summons, maximum 10 minutes. Discretion. Employee shall maintain absolute confidentiality regarding all aspects of employer's business. Violation results in immediate termination and full debt reinstatement. Termination. Either party may terminate with 30 days notice. Early termination by employee results in debt reinstatement plus penalties. Termination by employer for cause results in debt reinstatement plus penalties. Living arrangements. Employees shall reside in employer-provided housing for duration of contract. There were 12 more pages. Clauses about conflicts of interest, behavioral standards, dress codes, communication protocols. One section caught my eye. Employee acknowledges employer's business involves activities of legally ambiguous nature. Employee is not required to participate in illegal activities but must maintain discretion regarding any information obtained during employment. In other words, I might see things. I wouldn't be asked to do things, but I absolutely couldn't talk about things. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. This is Takashi. Save this number. Delete all other messages from unknown numbers. Coffee at 3:15 a.m. Apartment 12A. Don't be late. I stared at the message, the casual authority in it, the assumption of compliance. Another text. Read the contract. Ask questions tomorrow. Tonight, rest. You look exhausted. How did he know how I looked? Was there a camera? I glanced around the apartment, saw nothing obvious, but that didn't mean anything. A third text. There are no cameras in your apartment. You have privacy, but you look exhausted, because everyone does after their first meeting with me. It's a common reaction. Despite everything, I almost laughed. He'd anticipated my paranoia. I texted back. Questions about contract? Response came immediately. Save them for morning. You need sleep more than answers right now. One question. A pause. Then, ask. Why me? Really? Not the reasons you gave in your office. The real reason. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, like he was considering his answer. Finally, because you made perfect coffee and called me out for lying about it. That combination is rarer than you'd think. Sleep well, Alice. He'd used my first name, not Miss Stone. Alice. Something about that felt more intimate than it should. I put the phone down, walked to the bedroom. The bed was huge, dressed in what felt like Egyptian, window overlooking the city. The fog had fully rolled in now, turning San Francisco into a ghost of itself. Felt appropriate. I should shower, change clothes, eat something. My stomach couldn't remember when it last had food. Instead, I lay down on top of the covers, still fully dressed. My phone buzzed one more time. Pierce, your thesis sounds interesting. Female agency in Victorian Gothic. I read Jane Eyre 3 times. Charlotte Bronte understood that sometimes the only way to freedom is through fire. Sleep well. I stared at the message for a long time. A gangster who read Bronte, who understood literary references, who knew exactly what to say to make this nightmare feel slightly less like drowning. I pulled up my father's contact, stared at it. My thumb hovered over the call button. What would I even say? Thanks for destroying my life? Thanks for leaving me to clean up your mess? Thanks for taking Emma and leaving me here alone? I didn't call. Instead, I set my alarm for 2:45 a.m. 30-minute buffer to make perfect coffee. Then I closed my eyes and tried not to think about what morning would bring. The alarm screamed at 2:45 a.m. I'd forgotten to set it to vibrate. For 3 seconds, I had no idea where I was. Then reality crashed back. Takashi, Ozu, debt, 3 years. Coffee at 3:50. I rolled out of bed. My mouth tasted like regret and bad decisions. The bathroom was obscene. Rainfall shower. Heated floors. Organic toiletries that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget used to. I showered fast. Dressed in the same clothes from yesterday. My belongings from Oakland hadn't arrived yet, and made my way to the kitchen. The espresso machine was a Slayer. Single group, but commercial grade. Retail price, around $8,000. For my apartment. Just so I could practice. A note was taped to it. Beans in the freezer. Grinder calibrated. Water filtered. Practice once before going upstairs. He'd thought of everything. I made a practice shot. Tasted it. Too bitter. Adjusted the grind finer. Tried again. Better. Still not perfect. 10:58 a.m. I had 17 minutes. I grabbed a clean cup. There was a whole shelf of them. Various sizes, and headed for the elevator. Floor 12. The doors opened to the same quiet hallway. But this time, I noticed details I'd missed before. The art wasn't just Hokusai. There was Hiroshi Gei too. 100 famous views of Edo. Originals. Probably. I found 12A at the end of the hall. Knocked 3 times. Like Naoki had done. Enter. Came Tekshi's voice. His apartment made mine look like a closet. Open floor plan. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, showing San Francisco and the Bay. Minimalist furniture. Leather, steel, dark wood. Everything at perfect right angles. A kitchen that belonged in a Michelin restaurant. The espresso machine. There was a La Marzocco Strada. The kind that costs $20,000. Takeshi sat at a low table, working on a laptop. He changed from the suit to a simple black t-shirt and gray pants. Somehow he looked just as intimidating. "You're early," he said without looking up. 3 minutes. Better early than late. Better on time than either. Precision, Alice. He'd used my first name again. I walked to the kitchen. Found beans. Single origin Ethiopian. Roasted 3 days ago. Found the grinder. Already calibrated. Found cups pre-warmed in a heating drawer. Everything prepared. Everything controlled. I made the espresso. 22 grams of coffee. 93 degrees water temperature. 25-second extraction. 2 millimeters of crema. Perfect. I served it at 3:15 exactly. Tekshi closed his laptop, took the cup, inhaled the aroma, sipped. 3 seconds of silence. Perfect, he said. I waited for the but. No notes. This is exactly what I wanted. Something in my chest unknotted slightly. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me. You did the work. He took another sip. Sit. We should talk. There was a chair across from him. I sat. Questions about the contract? He asked. Several. But first, why are you awake at 3 a.m.? I find clarity in quiet hours. Most of the world is asleep. Their noise doesn't interfere with my thoughts. That's poetic for an organized crime boss. You've been reading about Yakuza. Not a question. I Googled you. Found surprisingly little, which is impressive in the information age. I value privacy. I pay people to maintain it. He set his cup down, aligned it with his laptop. What did you find? Enough to know you're not just some mid-level operator. Your family name appears in academic papers about Japanese organized crime in America. The Ozukai. One of the oldest families in San Francisco. My great-grandfather came here in 1958. Built everything from nothing. My grandfather expanded it. My father, he paused, had different priorities. I'm rebuilding what he let decay. And that requires perfect coffee at 3 a.m. No, that requires someone I can trust, not to poison my coffee at 3 a.m. He looked at me directly. Do you understand what I'm actually doing, Alice? Hiring you? Paying off my debt through indentured servitude. Testing your reliability. 3 years is a long time. If you're going to betray me, I need to know early. When the stakes are still low. So I'm on probation. Everyone here is always on probation. Trust is earned daily, lost instantly. I thought about that, about living in this building where everyone was constantly being evaluated. How do people survive here? I asked. By being excellent at what they do. By maintaining discretion. By understanding that loyalty is rewarded and betrayal is, he trailed off, punished? Addressed. Efficiently. A chill ran down my spine. Takeshi must have seen it. I'm not going to hurt you, Alice. That would be counterproductive. But I need you to understand the environment you've entered. People here follow rules, break them, and there are consequences. Like? Depends on the violation. Tardiness, loss of privileges, indiscretion, termination, betrayal. He shrugged. That's never happened. People know better. Because you're terrifying. Because I'm fair. Harsh, but fair. Predictable. People can work with predictable. He stood, walked to the window. The fog was starting to lift, revealing the city below. You should know something about me, he said, back to me. I have obsessive-compulsive disorder. Diagnosed when I was 17. I manage it through ritual and routine. The coffee, the alignment, the patterns. They're not affectations. They're how I function. Why are you telling me this? Because you'll notice. You already have. Better you understand it than think I'm just eccentric. He turned back. My condition makes me very good at certain things. organization, pattern recognition, maintaining systems. It also makes me difficult to work with. I know this. I compensate by being clear about expectations. Is that why the coffee has to be perfect? The coffee has to be perfect because I can taste the difference. And because starting my day with something imperfect sets a precedent I can't tolerate. It was the most honest thing he'd said to me. Okay, I said. I can work with that. Can you? Really? He returned to his seat. Most people say they can. Then they last 3 weeks and quit. The structure feels oppressive. The standards feel impossible. They think I'm a tyrant. Are you? Probably. But a consistent one. You'll never wonder where you stand with me, Alice. I don't play games. I don't hint. If you're failing, I'll tell you. If you're succeeding, I'll tell you that too. That's actually refreshing. Is it? A slight smile. Most people prefer comfortable lies. I prefer knowing what I'm dealing with. Then we'll get along. He picked up his coffee again. Your turn. Questions about the contract. I pulled out my phone where I'd noted things. Clause 7. Behavioral standards. What does that mean specifically? Dress appropriately when representing me. Speak professionally. Don't get drunk in public. Don't cause scandals. Basic professionalism. Clause 12. Communications protocols. I can't discuss your business. I understand that. But can I talk to my friends? My professors? Yes. Live your life. Just don't mention me, this building, or anything you see here. If someone asks where you work, you're a private assistant. That's all. What about Emma? If she calls? His expression softened slightly. Your sister is with your father. In Portland. I had someone check. She's safe. In school. Seems reasonably okay given the circumstances. Relief flooded through me. You checked on her? I don't terrorize children, Alice. Whatever your father's debts, she's innocent. If you want, contact her. You may. Just don't mention specifics of our arrangement. Thank you. I meant it. He nodded, drank more coffee. Clause 18. I continued. Early termination penalties. What are we talking about? You leave before 3 years. The debt reinstates in full plus 20% penalty, plus any costs I've incurred housing and feeding you. Essentially, you'd owe close to 500,000. My stomach dropped. So I really can't leave. You can leave. It would just be financially catastrophic. He set his empty cup down. I'm not trying to trap you, Alice, but I need commitment. Training you, integrating you, trusting you. All of that requires investment. If you leave after 6 months, I've wasted time and resources. So it is a trap. It's a contract. With terms. Unfavorable terms. Yes. But you're not exactly negotiating from strength. He was right. I hated it. But he was right. Last question, I said. Clause 23. Employee may pursue romantic relationships with employer's permission. Permission. Really? I need to know who you're involved with. Security reasons. If you start dating someone, I have them vetted. If they're a threat, law enforcement, rival organization, journalist, you don't date them. That's controlling. That's careful. People in my world don't have the luxury of careless relationships. He leaned back. Have you ever been in love, Alice? The question caught me off guard. That's personal. It's relevant. Have you? I thought about Jason, my sophomore year boyfriend who'd lasted 3 months before deciding I was too intense. About Marcus, who'd wanted something casual and got offended when I wanted more. No, I admitted. Not really. Then you won't miss what you don't have. 3 years is a long time, but it's not forever. You'll survive. Will I? Yes. Simple. Certain. You're stronger than you think. I saw it yesterday. You'll survive this. I wanted to believe him. My phone buzzed. A calendar notification appeared on the screen. Berkeley. Comp. Lit 7. Class, I said. I need to leave by 9. Naoki will drive you. He'll wait and bring you back. I can take Bart. You can, but you won't. Security protocol. You're connected to me now. That comes with certain adjustments. I'm not going to get used to this. You will. Humans adapt. It's our super species ability. He stood. Go. Get ready for class. Be back by 2. You're sitting in on a meeting. What kind of meeting? The kind where you observe and say nothing. You need to understand what I do. Can't work for someone if you don't know the business. I stood too. Mr. Ozu, Takashi, we're past formality. Takeshi. This morning, thank you for being honest about the OCD, for checking on Emma, for not being worse than you are. Something flickered in his eyes. The bar is very low when not being worse than you are warrants gratitude. Welcome to my reality. No, welcome to ours. We're in this together now. For 3 years. He walked me to the door. Coffee was perfect, by the way. Genuinely perfect. Do that every morning, and we'll have no problems. The first week was disorienting. My life split into 2 incompatible pieces: student by day, assistant to organized crime by night, and early morning. Takeshi's routines were rigid. Coffee at 3:15 a.m., again at 7:00 a.m., again at 2:00 p.m., again at 9:00 p.m. Each one had to be perfect. Each one was tested, evaluated, and critiqued. By day 3, I could make his coffee blindfolded. By day 5, I started noticing other things. How he adjusted objects in threes. How he checked door locks 3 times. How he counted his steps in the hallway, always multiples of 3. How the OCD wasn't just about coffee. It was about everything. I attended my classes like a ghost. Present, but not there. Professor Martinez asked if I was okay. I lied and said fine. My thesis sat untouched. The irony wasn't lost on me. Writing about female agency while living under someone's control. The meetings Takeshi had me observe were educational in the worst way. I watched him negotiate with a man who owned 3 restaurants and needed protection. Protection from what? Takeshi never said. Didn't have to. The implication was clear. I watched him review financial statements that looked legitimate until you knew what to look for. Money laundering, I realized. Hiding illegal income in legal businesses. I watched him take a call in Japanese, voice cold and precise. When he hung up, he turned to Naoki and said, "Handle the warehouse situation." Quietly. I didn't ask what that meant. At night, alone in my apartment, I tried to reconcile what I was seeing. Takeshi wasn't violent. At least not directly. He was controlled, precise, almost bureaucratic about crime, like it was just business requiring careful management. But the threat was always there, under the surface. In the way people looked at him, in how quickly they agreed to his terms. He was terrifying in his calm. 2 weeks in, something shifted. I was in his apartment, making the 9 p.m. coffee. He was at his desk, working through documents. "Alice," he said, not looking up, "what do you know about art authentication?" "Some. I took a seminar on it." "Why?"
"I'm acquiring a piece."
"Supposed to be Hiroshige. I need someone to verify it's not a reproduction. I'm not an expert, no. But you can read and research." He slid a folder across his desk. "Information about the piece. I need a preliminary assessment by tomorrow." I opened the folder. Photographs of a woodblock print. The moon over the Sumida River. Dated 18 to 57. Supposedly from a private collection in Kyoto. "Is this legal?" I asked. "The acquisition? Yes. The provenance is clean. I'm just cautious about authenticity." I studied the photos. "I'll need to see the actual piece. Photographs aren't enough. It arrives Thursday. You'll examine it then." "I'm not qualified." "You're more qualified than anyone else available to me who I trust. Do your best. That's all I ask." It was the first time he'd asked me to do something beyond coffee. I spent the next 2 days researching Hiroshige, woodblock printing techniques, authentication markers. Barely slept. My thesis continued to gather dust. Thursday came. The print arrived in a climate-controlled case, handled by men wearing white gloves. Takeshi had set up an examination area in his apartment. Proper lighting. Magnification tools. Reference materials. "Take your time," he said. "Be thorough." I examined the print for 2 hours. Checked the paper texture, the pigment aging, the block registration marks. Compared it to authenticated examples in digital archives. Finally, "It's real." "Probably. I'd want a professional to confirm. But all the markers are consistent with period work. The paper's right. The pigments show appropriate aging. The printing technique matches documented examples. Takeshi nodded. Value, if authentic, anywhere from 40 to 70,000, depending on buyer. I paid 35. Then you got a good deal. I usually do. He carefully returned the print to its case. Thank you. That was excellent work. You're welcome. No, I mean it. You took the task seriously. Did real research, gave me a qualified answer, instead of guessing. That's exactly what I need. Something in his tone made me look at him. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You're good at this, he said. The analysis, the attention to detail. You're wasted on just coffee. I make excellent coffee. You do? But you're capable of more. He paused. How's your thesis coming? The question surprised me. It's not. Why? Because I'm exhausted. Because every spare minute I have, I'm either making you coffee or researching Hiroshite prints, or sitting in meetings trying to look invisible. So, take less classes next semester. Focus on the thesis. I need to graduate in May. Why? What changes if you graduate in August instead? I didn't have a good answer. Think about it, Takeshi said. You're trying to maintain your old life while living a new one. Something has to give. Better you control what gives than have it chosen for you. He was right. Again, I was starting to hate how often he was right. That night, I couldn't sleep. 3:00 a.m. approached. I should rest before coffee service. Instead, I was standing at my window, watching fog roll in from the bay. My phone buzzed. Can't sleep either? I typed back. How did you know? Your light's on. I can see it from my window. I looked up. 12 floors above me, a window glowed. Insomnia? I texted. Occupational hazard. Come up. I'll make tea. I shouldn't. It was inappropriate. He was my employer. I was his employee. There were boundaries, but I was tired of boundaries. Tired of pretending this was a normal job. Tired of being alone with my thoughts. I went up. Takeshi answered the door in a gray sweater and black pants, barefoot. Hair slightly mussed, more human than I'd ever seen him. Come in, he said. His apartment smelled like jasmine. A kettle was already heating. Can't sleep? He asked, pouring water over tea leaves. Too much thinking. About? Everything. This. My thesis. Emma. My father. How I ended up here. He handed me a cup. Green tea. Perfectly steeped. Regrets? He asked. Some. But what choice did I have? There's always a choice. Not always a good one, but always a choice. We sat at his low table. The city glittered below us. All lights and fog and dark water. Can I ask you something? I said. You can ask. I may not answer. Why this? Why organized crime? You're clearly intelligent. You could do anything. He was quiet for a long moment. Legacy. Expectation. Duty. Pick one. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He drank his tea. My great-grandfather built something from nothing. My grandfather expanded it. My father destroyed most of it through carelessness. When he died, I was 23. I inherited a failing organization, angry subordinates, and debts I couldn't quantify. So you rebuilt. I had to. Men depended on me. Families depended on me. Walk away and they'd lose everything. Stay and maybe I could fix it. Did you? Mostly. We're stable now. Profitable. Smaller than we were, but more sustainable. I cut ties with the worst elements. Focused on legitimate businesses with illegal augmentations rather than crime with legitimate fronts. That's still crime. It is. But it's controlled crime. No drugs. No human trafficking. No unnecessary violence. We facilitate transactions others can't. We provide services the market wants, but the law prohibits. We're not moral, but we're not monsters. Parsing the difference must take effort. He smiled slightly. Every day, but someone has to draw lines. Might as well be me. I thought about that. About how he'd created a moral framework in an immoral world. You could still leave? I said. Walk away now? You've done your duty. To what? I'm 30. No degree. My only skills are organization and strategic thinking applied to illegal activity. Not exactly marketable. You could go legitimate. I am legitimate. Mostly. The businesses I run are legal. They just serve clients who operate in gray areas. More semantics. More precision. He refilled my tea. What about you? After 3 years, after your debt is clear, what then? Graduate school, maybe. Teaching. Something with literature. You'd be good at teaching. You explain things clearly. How would you know? The Hiroshige assessment. You walked me through your reasoning, made it comprehensible. That's a teaching skill. I hadn't thought about it that way. We sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the fog thickened. Alice, Takashi said quietly. This arrangement we have, it's not forever. 3 years, then you're free. But while you're here, I need you to understand something. What? You're safe with me. I know this situation isn't what you chose. I know it feels like captivity. But I won't hurt you. I won't let anyone else hurt you. That's a promise. Why does that matter to you? Because I'm not my father. He saw people as tools, used them until they broke, then discarded them. I won't do that. He looked at me directly. You're a person, not a possession. Remember that, even when everything else feels wrong. Remember that. Something in my chest tightened. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me for basic decency. In this world, apparently that's worth thanking someone for. He almost smiled. The fog pressed against the windows, turning San Francisco into shadows and light. And I realized, somewhere between the coffee and the conversation, I'd stopped feeling like a prisoner. I still didn't know what I was becoming, but for the first time in weeks, I wasn't afraid to find out. That fragile sense of safety lasted exactly 4 days. Thursday afternoon, I left Berkeley after my complet seminar. Professor Martinez had kept me late, asking questions about my thesis that I'd answered on autopilot. My mind was elsewhere, on coffee temperatures and perfect angles, on dark eyes and careful hands, on feeling seen for the first time in years. I took BART to the Embarcadero station, then walked the 6 blocks to the building, same route I'd taken dozens of times now. The fog was rolling in early, turning the financial district into a film noir set. I was half a block from the building when I noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, idling at the curb, engine running. Not unusual in the financial district. Town cars waiting for executives, Ubers picking up passengers, except something about this one felt wrong. I'd seen it that morning too, I realized. Same spot, same idling engine. My pace quickened without conscious thought. The car's engine revved. I was running, before I understood why. The sedan pulled out, tires squealing slightly on the damp pavement. Not racing toward me, just keeping pace, matching my speed, like a predator that wanted its prey to know it was being hunted. My bag bounced against my hip. My breath came in gasps. The building entrance was right there, 50 feet, 40, 30. I reached the door, fumbled with my keycard, dropped it. The sedan stopped directly behind me. A window rolled down with an electric hum. Miss Stone, a man's voice. Accented. Japanese, but his English was perfect. Amused, like this was all a game. You run very fast, but not fast enough. I grabbed my keycard from the ground. Didn't turn around. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. Tell Ozu-san something for me, the voice continued. Conversational, pleasant. Tell him Matsuda sends his regards, and tell him we know exactly where to find his new assistant. His investment. His weakness. The last word was delivered like a knife between ribs. We know where you go to school, where you used to live. We know about your sister in Portland, about your father in, well, that's not important. The point is, we know everything, and that means Ozu-san should be very, very careful. The window rolled up. The sedan drove away, not speeding, just leaving, like they'd accomplished exactly what they'd come to do. I stood there, frozen, keycard gripping in my white-knuckled hand. The building entrance doors burst open. 3 security guards, all talking into radios. One of them, Marcus, I'd learned his name last week, touched my shoulder gently. Miss Stone? Are you all right? We saw on the cameras. I wasn't all right, because I'd just learned something terrifying. My choice to stay with Techi hadn't just changed my life. It had painted a target on my back. It had made me a weapon someone could use against him. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Takeshi's office. My hands had finally stopped shaking. Mostly. Takeshi stood at the window, his back to me, so still he could have been carved from stone. Tanaka was there, along with 3 other men I'd never seen before, all in dark suits, all watching me with expressions that ranged from concern to calculation. I just finished explaining what happened. Every detail I could remember. The car, the voice, the message, Matsuda. When I said the name, Tachi's shoulders tightened infinitesimally. If I hadn't been watching for it, I would have missed it. Matsuda, he said finally, still not turning around. The name sounded like a curse in his mouth, like something bitter and poisonous. Hayu, Teiki-san, Tanaka confirmed. He's making his move, faster than anticipated. Not faster, right on schedule. I just hoped. Takeshi trailed off, finally turned to face us. His expression was perfectly controlled, which meant he was furious. I'd learned to read the signs. The slight tension in his jaw, the way his fingers curled at his sides, just slightly. I hoped he'd focus on business, not make it personal. Everything is personal to Matsuda, one of the other men said in English, for my benefit. That's what makes him dangerous. Hichishi's eyes found mine, held them. Alice, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Okay. Do you trust me to keep you safe? I thought about the man's voice through that car window. We know everything. Yes, I said. I trust you. Even if keeping you safe means restricting your freedom? He moved toward me, each step deliberate. No more walking alone. No more Bart. No more independence. Tanaka or one of my men, with you everywhere outside this building. Armed. Visible. Essentially, a constant reminder that you're living in my world now. The dangerous world, not the coffee and literature world you prefer. I thought about Emma, about my father, about everyone who'd ever abandoned me when things got difficult. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking if you can live with being protected, with being essentially under guard. The man's voice echoed in my memory. Your sister in Portland. If they knew about Emma, they could hurt her to hurt me. To hurt Takeshi. The web of vulnerability spread out from where I sat, touching everyone I'd ever cared about. Yes, I said. I can live with it. Because the alternative is making it easy for them. And I'm not going to do that. Takeshi studied me for 3 long seconds, then nodded. Tanaka. Implementation Protocol 3. Effective immediately. Hi. Tanaka bowed slightly, started giving orders to the other men in rapid Japanese. When they'd left, moving with the efficient urgency of soldiers who'd just received marching orders, Takeshi came to me, crouched down so we were eye level. I'm sorry, he said quietly. His voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. Not anger. Guilt. You didn't ask for this. You shouldn't have to be afraid because of me, because of my world, because of choices I made long before I met you. I'm not afraid because of you. I'm afraid because of him. There's a difference. Is there? I brought you into this world. I knew Matsuda was out there. I knew he'd eventually make a move. And I still let you stay. I still let you get close to me. That's on me, Alice. All of it. I reached out, touched his face, made him look at me instead of at his own guilt. You didn't let me do anything. I chose. Remember? After you saw the blood on your shirt, after I understood what you really were, I chose to stay. You even tried to release me from the contract. I said no. So if Matsuda's using me against you, that's not your fault. It's just the cost of the choice I made. His hand came up, covered mine against his cheek. The cost shouldn't be this high, he said. Maybe not. But it's the cost I'm willing to pay. He pulled me close then. Not romantic, detective, desperate, even. His arms wrapped around me like he could physically shield me from every threat in the world, through sheer will. I won't let him touch you, he said into my hair. His voice was rough, raw with an emotion I'd never heard from him. I promise. Whatever it takes. Whatever I have to do. He won't touch you. I believed him. But I also understood, standing there in his arms while security protocols were implemented around us, that some promises are impossible to keep, that in this world, his world, my world now, safety was an illusion, and danger was the only constant. That choosing to love someone dangerous didn't make the danger disappear. It just meant you faced it together. Takeshi, I said against his chest. Yes? When this is over, when Matsuda's dealt with, when things are safe again, I want you to teach me how to protect myself. Self-defense. How to spot threats. How to survive in your world. I can't just be someone you have to protect. I need to be someone who can stand beside you. He pulled back to look at me. Something in his expression shifted. Pride, maybe, or recognition of something he'd been hoping to see. When this is over, he agreed, I'll teach you everything. But Alice, what? This is part of why I. He stopped. Started again. In my world, strength matters. Survival matters. You just proved you have both. That's rare, important. Remember that. He didn't finish the first sentence. Didn't say what he'd been about to say. But I heard it anyway, in the space between words. This is part of why I'm falling in love with you. We stood there, in his office, holding each other, while outside the fog turned San Francisco into ghosts and shadows. And I realized something with crystalline clarity. This wasn't a romance novel. There was no guarantee of a happy ending. No promise that love conquered all, or that good always triumphed. But I'd made my choice, and I'd stand by it, even if it killed me.